guys. We're going to be reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets today. I'm going to be starting with chapter 8. It's been a little bit since we read, so I wanted to remind you that Harry had been doing his detention with Professor Lockhart, and he started hearing a strange voice whispering him, saying, "Come and let me rip you, let me tear you." And he could hear it, but Lockhart couldn't. And so he thought that was really strange, and he had just come back to the dorm and told Ron about what had happened. So now we're going to read chapter 8, which is called The Death Day Party. October arrived, spreading a damp chill over the grounds and onto the castle. Madame Pomfrey, the nurse, was kept busy by a sudden spat of colds among the staff and students. Her pepper-up potion worked instantly, though it left the drinker smoking at the ears for several hours afterwards. Ginny Weasley, who had been looking pale, was bullied into taking some by Percy. The steam pouring out from under her hair gave the impression that her whole head was on fire. Raindrops the size of bullets thundered on the castle windows for days on end. The lake rose, and the flower beds turned into muddy streams, and Hagrid's pumpkins swelled to the size of garden sheds. Oliver Wood's enthusiasm for regular training sessions, however, was not dampened, which was why Harry was to be found late one stormy Saturday afternoon, a few days before Halloween, returning to Gryffindor Tower, drenched to the skin and covered in mud. Even aside from the rain and wind, it hadn't been a happy practice session. Fred and George, who had been spying on the Slytherin team, had seen for themselves the speed of those new Nimbus 2001s. They reported that the Slytherin team was no more than 7 green blurs shooting through the air like missiles. As Harry squelched along the deserted corridor, he came across someone who looked just as preoccupied as he was. Nearly headless Nick, the ghost of Gryffindor Tower, was staring sadly out of a window, muttering under his breath, "Don't fulfill their requirements. Half an inch, if that." "Hello, Nick," said Harry. Hello, said nearly headless Nick, starting and looking around. He wore a dashing plumed hat on his long curly hair and a tunic with a ruff which concealed the fact that his neck was almost completely severed. He was pale as smoke, and Harry could see right through him to the dark sky and the rain outside. "You look troubled, young Potter," said Nick, folding a transparent letter as he spoke and tucking it inside of his coat. "So do you," said Harry. "Ah," nearly headless Nick waved his hand. "A matter of no importance. It's not like I really wanted to join. I thought I'd apply, but apparently I don't fulfill the requirements." In spite of his tone, there was a look of great bitterness on his face. "But you would think, wouldn't you," he erupted suddenly, pulling the letter back out of his pocket, "that getting hit 45 times in the neck with a blunt axe would qualify you to join the Headless Hunt?" Yes," said Harry, who was obviously supposed to agree. "I mean, nobody wishes more than I do that it had been all quick and clean and my head would have come off properly. I mean, it would have saved me a lot of pain. However," nearly headless Nick shook open the letter and read furiously, "we can only accept huntsmen whose heads have parted company with their bodies. You will appreciate that it would be impossible for members to participate in hunt activities such as horseback, head juggling, and head polo. It is with the greatest regret, therefore, that I must inform you that you do not fulfill our requirements. With very best wishes, Sir Patrick Delaney Podmore." Fuming, nearly headless Nick stuffed the letter away. "Half an inch of skin holding my neck on, Harry. Most people would think that's good and beheaded, but oh no, not enough for Sir Properly Decapitated Podmore." Nearly headless Nick took several deep breaths and then said in a calmer tone, "So what's bothering you? Anything I can do?" "No," said Harry, "not unless you know where we can get 7 free Nimbus 2001s for our match against The rest of Harry's sentence was drowned out by a high-pitched mewling from somewhere near his ankles. He looked down and found himself gazing into a pair of lamp-like yellow eyes. It was Mrs. Norris, the gray cat who was used by the caretaker, Argus Filch, as a sort of deputy in his endless battle against students. "You'd better get out of here, Harry," said Nick quickly. Filch isn't in a good mood. He's got the flu, and some third years accidentally plastered frog brains all over the ceiling in Dungeon 5. He's been cleaning all morning, and if he sees you dumping mud all over the place. Right, said Harry, backing away from the stare of Mrs. Norris, but not quickly enough. Drawn to the spot by the mysterious powers that seemed to connect him with his cat, Argus Filch burst suddenly through a tapestry to Harry's right, wheezing and looking wildly about for a rule breaker. There was a thick scarf around his head, and his nose was purple. Filth! He shouted, his jowls quivering, his eyes popping alarmingly as he pointed to the muddy puddle that had dripped from Harry's Quidditch robes. Mess and muck everywhere. I've had enough of it, I tell you. Follow me, Potter. So Harry waved a sad goodbye to nearly headless Nick and followed Filch back downstairs, doubling the number of muddy footprints on the floor. Harry had never been inside of Filch's office before. It was a place that most students stayed away from. The room was dingy and had no windows. It was lit by a single oil lamp dangling from the ceiling. A faint smell of fried fish lingered in the place. Wooden filing cabinets stood around the walls. From their labels, Harry could see that they had the details of every student Filch had ever punished. Fred and George Weasley had an entire drawer just to themselves. A highly polished collection of chains and manacles hung on the wall behind Filch's desk. It was common knowledge that he was always begging Dumbledore to let him suspend students by hanging their ankles from the ceiling. Filch grabbed a quill from a pot on his desk and began shuffling around looking for parchment. Dome, he muttered furiously. Great sizzling dragon bogies, frog brains, rat intestines. I've had enough of it. I'm going to make an example out of him. Now, where's that form? Yes, it is. He retrieved a big roll of parchment from his desk drawer, and he stretched out in front of him and dipped his long black quill into the ink pot. Name, Harry Potter. Crime? It was only a bit of mud, said Harry. It's only a bit of mud to you, boy, but to me it's an extra hour of scrubbing. Filch, shouted Filch, a drip shivering unpleasantly at the end of his nose. Crime, befouling the castle, suggested sentence. Dabbing at his running nose, Filch squinted unpleasantly at Harry, who waited for his sentence to fall. But as Filch lowered his quill, there was a great bang on the ceiling of the office, which made the oil lamp rattle. Peeves, Filch roared, flinging down his quill. I'll get you this time, I will. And without looking back at Harry, Filch ran flat-footed from the office with Mrs. Norris beside him. Peeves was the school poltergeist, a grinning, airborne menace who lived to cause problems. Harry didn't like Peeves, but he couldn't help feeling grateful for his timing. Hopefully, whatever Peeves had done, and it sounded as though he'd wrecked something very big this time, would distract Filch from Harry. Thinking he should probably wait for Filch to come back, Harry sank into a moth-eaten chair next to the desk. There was only one thing on it apart from his half-completed form, a large, glossy, purple envelope with silver letters on the front. With a quick look at the door to check that Filch wasn't coming back, Harry picked up the envelope and read, Quick Spell, a correspondence course in beginner's magic. Intrigued, Harry opened the envelope and pulled out the parchment inside. More curly silver writing was on the front page that said, Feel out of step in the world of modern magic? Find yourself making excuses not to perform simple spells? Ever been taunted for your woeful wand work? There is an answer. Quick Spell is an all-new, fail-safe, quick-result, easy-learn course. Hundreds of witches and wizards have benefited from the Quick Spell method. Madam E. Z. Nettles of Topsham writes, I had no memory for incantations, and my potions were a family joke. Now, after a quick spell course, I'm the center of attention at parties, and friends beg for the recipes of my solutions. Warlock D.J. Prod of Didsbury says, My wife used to sneer at my feeble charms, but 1 month into your fabulous quick spell course, and I succeeded in turning her into a yak. Thank you, Quick Spell. Fascinated, Harry thumbed through the rest of the envelope's contents. Why on earth did Filch want a quick spell course? Did this mean he wasn't a proper wizard? Harry was just reading Lesson 1, Holding Your Wand, when shuffling footsteps outside told him Filch was coming back. Stuffing the parchment into the envelope, Harry threw it back onto the desk just as the door opened. Filch was looking triumphant. That vanishing cabinet was extremely valuable, he said to Mrs. Norris. We'll get Peeves kicked out this time, my sweet, for sure. His eyes fell on Harry and then darted to the Quickspell envelope, which, Harry realized too late, was lying 2 feet away from where it had started. Filch's pasty face turned brick red. Harry braced himself for a wave of fury. Filch hobbled across to his desk, snatched up the envelope, and threw it in the drawer. Have you? Did you read? He sputtered. No, Harry lied quickly. Filch's knobbly knees were twisting together. If I thought you'd read my private, not that it's mine, it's for a friend, but be that as it may. However, Harry was staring at him, alarmed. Filch had never looked madder. His eyes were popping, a tick was going in one of his pouchy cheeks, and the tartan scarf didn't help. Very well, go, and don't breathe a word. Not that, however, if you didn't read. Go now. I have to write up Peeves's report. Just go. Amazed at his luck, Harry sped out of the office, up the corridor, and back up the stairs. To escape from Filch's office without punishment was probably a school record. Harry, did it work? Nearly Headless Nick came out of the classroom. Behind him, Harry could see the wreckage of a large black and gold cabinet that appeared to have been dropped from a great height. I persuaded Peeves to crash it right over Filch's office, said Nick eagerly. I thought that might distract him. Was that you? Said Harry. It worked. I didn't even get detention. Thanks, Nick. They set up off the corridor together. Nearly Headless Nick, Harry noticed, was still holding Sir Patrick's rejection letter. I wish there was something I could do for you about the headless hunt, said Harry. Nearly Headless Nick stopped in his tracks, and Harry walked right through him. He wished he hadn't. It was like stepping in an icy shower. But there is something you could do for me, said Nick excitedly. Harry, would I be asking too much? But no, I'm sure you wouldn't want. What is it? Said Harry. Well, this Halloween will be my 500th death day, said Nearly Headless Nick, drawing himself up and looking dignified. Oh, said Harry, not sure if he should look sorry or happy about this. Right. I'm holding a party down in one of the dungeons. Friends will be coming from all over the country, and it would be such an honor if you would attend. Mr. Weasley, Miss Granger would be welcome to come too, of course, but I dare say you would rather go to the school feast. He watched Harry. No, said Harry quickly. I'll come. My dear boy, Harry Potter at my death day party. And, he hesitated, looking excited, do you think that you could possibly mention to Sir Patrick how very frightening and impressive you find me? Of course, said Harry. Nearly Headless Nick just beamed at him. We'll stop here and we'll find out what happens at a 500th death day party the next time we read chapter 8.